Not insensitive to your plight, but things just don't seem right. You hurt me beyond belief, and I can't get no relief. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Think I'll run for public office and try to make a change. Live up on your special interests, make a fortune in the stock exchange. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Today's show is sponsored by Farmer Joe's Fresh Market, located at 1401 Southwest Pine Island Road in beautiful Cape Coral, Florida. Thanksgiving is so close, and Farmer Joe's has everything you need for your holiday festivities. And if you don't have time to cook or just don't want to cook, let Farmer Joe's take care of the work. Get a delicious pre-cooked Plainville whole turkey, 2 pounds mashed potatoes, 2 pounds of green bean casserole traditional stuffing, 12-count Hawaiian rolls, and 32 ounces of Farmer Joe's homemade gravy. Everything you need and more. Lee County's greatest grocery store, Farmer Joe's Fresh Market. If you're thinking about marble, you need to call International Marble at 239-878-2200, serving all the needs of Southwest Florida. This family-owned and operated business is dedicated to quality custom craftsmanship and looking forward to making your marble dreams come true. Give them a call today. International Marble, 239-878-2200. That's 239-878-2200. Mr. Ford O'Connell, who is a veteran political analyst, author, businessman, professor, attorney, and my friend, joins us. And you can find Ford at FordO'Connell.com, Ford O'Connell on X, and most reputable news sources. Advocate Jacqueline Perez from Island Park is joining us. And we also have political activist Denise Nystrom in Bonita Springs. Thank y'all for joining. I am Smokin Joe, and welcome to the Cracker Culture Podcast.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you all here. Before we get into this political craziness we want to talk about, I wanted to briefly say this past weekend was truly amazing for me. I joined some wonderful men, and we spent the weekend inside the DeSoto Correctional Facility. First thing I want to express is how professional and courteous the entire staff treated us during our visit. This is a great opportunity for anybody that wants to work with prison ministries. This is the 77th time at that particular prison that this ministry has went in and they fed and fellowshiped with the inmates, and they call them Brothers in Blue. It was a great time. I met a lot of great people, made a lot of new friends. I mean, some of the people there are really, you know, most of the guys that went with me, they are retired businessmen. I mean, some are not, but, you know, they all had a great love for helping other people and a great love for God. It's really, truly amazing. I am going to put up some information on how to donate to that ministry for their future endeavors. It is a great, truly heartfelt experience. Now, I want to get on to our side of this. Ford Trump speaks at Madison Square Gardens. The 20,000 event was sold out, had more than 70,000 others outside that were in support of the Republican nominee. Ford, this was one of the largest political events I've ever seen, and let the record show there was also a reported 500 Harris supporters outside in the crowd. Man, this was amazing, Ford. I want to show a clip, and we'll talk about it.
But I'm thrilled to be back in the city I love, and thousands of proud, hard-working American patriots. You're with me. We're all together. We've always been together. And I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. This will be America's new golden age. It's going to happen quickly, too, very quickly. Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands. Next Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've done a terrible job, that crooked Joe Biden has done a terrible job. You've destroyed our country. We're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get out. Get out. You're fired.
Well, Ford, that was probably one of the definitely one of the most people I've ever seen in one pack for a place for a political event.
Well, look, on Sunday, Madison Square Garden became MAGA Square Garden. And look, Donald Trump, he's firing on all cylinders. He's outworking Harris on the campaign trail. Heck, he's even going up at the polls. He's peaking at the right time. And you saw this. Look, never has that happened in my lifetime. Okay, and that includes Reagan. That's how old I am. It includes Reagan. I will tell you, 1984, Ronald Reagan couldn't have done that. You just had the Republican presidential nominee go into Arctic Blue, New York, a state the Republicans haven't won since 1984, and amass that kind of turnout. He has a movement, and let me tell you something, the liberal media tried to poke holes on it every single time, and even when you turned on CNN after the rally, the amazing thing was even they were jaw-dropped.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, when his wife come out, and she introduced Donald Trump, I mean, the crowd was crazy. I mean, that was one of the most wild ovations I ever seen when she spoke for it. It was truly moving.
She's his best asset on the campaign trail because she winds up humanizing him for a lot of people that may not know Donald Trump. They may only know what they've been brainwashed by the mainstream media to know about Donald Trump. And she really brings a human aspect to him. I will say this, somebody else you forgot to mention in there always gives me chills up my spine every time he sings, and that's Lee Greenwood.
Yeah.
Really is a great American. I mean, ever since 1984, 83, 84, when he wrote that song, it's still going strong today within the Republican Party.
Absolutely. Well, there was a lot of colorful characters and events that happened. Hulk Hogan got up there and he was screaming. It was funny though. You know, Hulk Hogan's always ripping his shirt off. Well, apparently he didn't grab it just right. He struggled there, and that was, you never seen a Hulk struggle. But yeah, he put on a pretty good show.
Well, look, you got to remember the Hulkster's in his 70s now. I mean, you know, Terry from Tampa, as I will call him, is a good man. And I think what's amazing here is that this is the third time President Trump has run. And when you look at someone like Hulk Hogan, you would never say anyone with those 20-inch pythons, there's something wrong with that person not standing up. But even he was so fearful for the first 2 times Trump ran that he felt scared to speak out. That's really where we are. People are no longer scared to speak out on behalf of Trump when they're in blue states.
Well, I mean, I definitely don't think that nobody can say that it was an amazing rally, an amazing event. And, you know, never without conflict with anything that involves Trump. Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made a joke that many were quick to raise criticism. I'm going to play a clip before we talk about that.
The response to his punchline, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe may have forgotten there were over 1 million Puerto Ricans living in New York City when he delivered this awkward joke.
A lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right. Very good.
Now, Hinchcliffe, who is a podcaster and a comedian, his comments are good teaching lessons for everybody else. It's not okay in the USA to joke about any race except for Caucasians. Let's just get it out. You can't talk about, you got to joke about white people, it'll fly, but anybody else ain't happening for it.
Well, that's exactly right. But the other thing is we're also talking about Puerto Ricans and how they're spread across some of the battleground states. Just not a wise thing to say. But again, remember, Republicans, to your point, Joe, are held to a very double standard. Democrats get away with saying the nastiest things about Republicans, and the media never really holds them to account. But if one Republican surrogate somewhere says something wrong, it's going to be the story of the day. That's how you know he's winning, is because they're picking scabs at little things like this. No, that shouldn't have been said. But the point is the media can't find anything else. And let's look at this month as a whole. Okay, when I said Donald Trump's firing on all cylinders, remember, he was serving fries in McDonald's in Pennsylvania while Kamala Harris was dishing out lies. Then he goes on the Joe Rogan podcast, which I think is important for a lot of people to know, that that's 15 million people on Spotify, 17, 18 million people on YouTube. And these are young men who are traditionally disaffected voters who don't turn out. So he's going to all the right places with all the right people. It is going to still, in the battleground states, be a very close election.
Well, Ford, I want to move on. For those who might have missed your comments about the polls during your recent Fox News, Fox and Friends interview, tell us what's changed and what your best assessment is how this election is trending now.
It's trending in Trump's direction. Let's remember he's ahead in all 7 of the battleground state polls, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polling. That is North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So on that front, he's doing well. But he's also doing something else, we're saying, for the first time ever is the Republican presidential nominee. He's also leading in the national polling average as well. And to put this in perspective, Joe, back on this day in 2016, Hillary Clinton was ahead by 4.6 points in the national polls. And the only swing state poll that Donald Trump was ahead in back then was the state of Georgia. So that's where we are. He's polling better than he's ever polled before. But again, what concerns me here is he's going to do real well in the Sun Belt. That's sort of your Arizona, your Georgia, your North Carolina, your Nevada. He does have to pick off one of the 3, what they call blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Now, Michigan and Wisconsin, we don't register by party, so therefore we can't really determine what the early voting numbers are. In Pennsylvania, they do. Right now, he's behind in early voting in Pennsylvania, but he's doing a lot better than he was in 2016. So it's going to be a barn burner in the upper Midwest, but that's where this race is going to be won and lost. But I like the hand he's holding right now.
Well, the most common question that's posed to me, Ford, is what's going to happen if Trump wins and they somehow find a way to do something to cause him not to be able to take office. I mean, do you feel like there's a chance maybe they call martial law? Is there something you think they might do to stop Donald Trump from taking the office this time?
Well, when Donald Trump does win, they're going to have a serious mental breakdown, and there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, and they're not going to accept the fact that basically Joe Biden is senile and Kamala Harris is just a joke. That's going to be the problem. But it would not surprise me if, say, we get within 10,000 votes in Pennsylvania, or we get within 20,000 votes in Michigan, that they try to pull different games about certifying the election. And remember, the other key thing, and Donald Trump will tell you this, it is not enough for Donald Trump to become the 47th president of the United States. Republicans have to hold the House of Representatives, where the bulk of swing state seats are in New York and California. And the reason is because if Trump loses the House, they're going to immediately start impeaching him the second they swear him in. But here's the real total kicker, Joe, and you're going to love this. Do you know who has to sign off on the certification of the election? One Kamala Harris, because she's the vice president of the United States.
Right.
That's going to be a great day. We'll have a lot to talk about that day, Ford, for sure. Kamala she spoke with CNN's Anderson Cooper during a town hall meeting in what was expected to be a softball interview, but the host surprisingly fact-checked the nominee occasionally. But she repeatedly called former President Trump a fascist, fumbling yet another interview with her word salad. I got a small clip from that interview.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Donald Trump should be here tonight to talk with you and answer your questions. He's not. He refused to come. The enemy is within. He's talking about the American people.
Do you believe you would be more pro-Israel than Donald Trump?
I believe that Donald Trump is dangerous. Far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And we are now at a place where with Sinwar's death, I do believe we have an opportunity to end this war.
Do you pray every day?
I do pray every day. I do pray every day, sometimes twice a day. My administration will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring to this role my own ideas and my own experience. I love fixing problems. And so I pledge to you to be a president who not only works for all Americans, but works on getting stuff done. And that means compromise.
Can you believe any of that? What has she worked to get done? She believes in fixing problems, and she's the border czar. Well, she surely didn't score real good on fixing that problem. I mean, she prays twice a day, though, Ford. I mean, God bless her heart. I mean, I don't know how. I feel like I walk around in constant prayer. I don't know how that you can. Sometimes I pray twice a day. I mean, that's
she also says she has a gun, which I don't believe either. But I'm going to put it to you this way. This was a one-person debate on CNN, and the reason why they pulled this little town hall stunt is because they were trying to hold Donald Trump's feet to a fire for a second debate. She lost a one-person debate against herself. And here's the reason why the Democrats are going to lose the White House in 2024. One word: arrogance. They want to talk about the issues they want to talk about. The problem is they're not talking about the issues that the voters talk about. How do I know this? Let's go back to those blue wall states for a second. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. You have Senate candidates running in all three of those states with very close races. And as we get closer to Election Day, we're basically 1 week out, they're running ads praising Donald Trump on China and on tariffs. They are running away from Kamala Harris because they know what a dumpster fire she is.
Man, I just tell you, and she's getting worse and worse as it progresses. She's got so desperate. She held a rally in Houston, Texas, and she.
Well, look, I've always told you this. There is no politician in American history who's failed more spectacularly upwards than Kamala Harris. She's been in office for nearly 2 decades, and she's never actually had to run a race or improve her skills as a politician. And the fact that she can't even talk about basic policy after being the vice president of the United States for 4 years is all you need to know. And why did she go to Houston, Texas? Because essentially the Democrats thought that somehow if she shows up there, they can knock off Ted Cruz in the United States Senate. It's not going to happen because Trump is running so strong in Texas. He's going to drag Ted Cruz across. But the biggest thing, and I think this is going to chafe a lot of Harris supporters, is they tried to tell you that Beyonce was going to sing, and Beyonce never sang. And therefore now they've got problems with their own voters.
That was what I was just fixing to say. She's so desperate that the way she could get people there was to say Beyonce was going to be there. And one reporter said it was crazy. Said everybody lashed out. He said there was 30,000 people mad as hell that they come to see Beyonce sing. They wasn't there to see Kamala Harris. They wanted to see
when was the last time you expected 30,000 people to turn out for either Joe Biden or Kamala Harris? You better have a pretty good one. I'll tell you, next time around, I'm surprised if they don't bring Taylor Swift between now and Election Day, and she probably won't sing either, and then that'll be it.
Well, Ford, we're going to move on over to
The man's trash.
The Man's Trash. Today on The Man's Trash, we welcome Jacqueline Perez, a local advocate in Southwest Florida. And anybody who doesn't know Miss Perez, she is probably one of the hardest working advocates for the children of Southwest Florida. The research and the time she spends trying to keep this school district held accountable is amazing. I just can't tell you enough. I mean, I'm glad to have Jacqueline on my team. She's just a remarkable young lady. And then we also have Denise Nystrom. Denise Nystrom, she has some interesting information for us. Denise Nystrom, a former school board candidate. She is also a political activist who's wrote many articles about the corruption in Lee County. And I believe that there's an article coming out by the Trident, who I think a couple of you have already been contacted about what's happening in Lee County. What can y'all share with us about that? I know you can't, it's not out yet. Denise, what can you share with us about this article coming out from Trident?
So you know what it seems like? It seems like you reach out to somebody in the media, and you're lucky if you get somebody that will do a little something, and then you ask them to do a little something else, and they don't really want any part of it. And then it seems like some of the media in Lee County might even be possibly working for or working with, particular campaign manager and his cohorts. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is just not right. So there happened to be a series of articles that have come out about the sheriff. And I realized that there was this Florida Center for Government Accountability, and that they have a publication called Trident, and it's a non-for-profit that kind of looks at what's going on and determines whether they think that there's some kind of nefarious or corrupt activity. And basically, I contacted them with really at this point years worth of research that I had been doing, and they said, yeah, there's a story here, that's for sure. And, the story really is not just about me and my school board campaign, because seriously, what's been going on in this county has probably been going on for about 14 years, more heavily in the last 10 years is what I would say, that revolves around just a particular campaign manager, the local elected officials that get elected because of him, the PAC money that flows from those elected officials and from this campaign manager. And then when you look at who's donating to these PACs, what you're just noticing is builders and developers galore. And then you find out that this campaign manager is actually a lobbyist for these builders. And basically what they do is if there's a good conservative, strong candidate, even candidates that are willing to self-fund, they just disparage those candidates through mailers, through robo-texts, through radio ads. I mean, it's really, really horrible the way this supposedly Republican establishment is willing to treat conservatives. And there's a lot there to bite down on, because over the years, they've actually disparaged the characters of a lot of people.
Well, all three of you that are sitting here has fell prey to that. I mean, Jacqueline, when she ran for school board, you when you ran for school board, and Ford when he ran for state rep. And quite frankly, all of y'all lost to lesser candidates.
That's exactly right. And the whole other problem here is with this cabal of candidates and Terry Miller and the way they run things. You cannot go one-on-one against their candidate. You have to have a crowded primary if you want to be able to take them down, because essentially they can only focus on one opponent. They can't be focusing on many opponents, which is basically why Terry Miller has never won a congressional race in Southwest Florida.
Right. Well, and Jacqueline, you too have had that experience. When you ran, they just tried to discredit you as well.
Yes, they did. It's very hard to run a campaign grassroots in Lee County if you don't have a lot of finances behind you. The mailers, first of all, kill you. Sometimes you're fighting 7-8 mailers coming at you. It's very difficult.
Denise, when they contacted you, kind of a little summary, what basically is trying, to clarify, we're not talking about information you dug up on Sheriff Carmine. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about the other public officials. I know you mentioned that Trident had done some reports on the sheriff. That's not at all what you're referring to. Your research is on the whole of the Republican Party in this area that's controlling everything, correct?
Yes. I mean, Ford used the word cabal, and the definition of cabal is a group that gets together for the intent of controlling the greater community, the greater masses. And so that's what they are. And in fact, they think it's funny that they've been called the cabal. They're actually defining themselves as the cabal now. But really what we have here is, when you have one particular campaign manager, and by the way, it's not just him, he's just a spoke on the wheel. He definitely has people that are working with him. Our property appraisers working with him, who's also our state committee man, and other people that are presidents of the Republican clubs. And the Republican clubs here are actually taking money from their members and from people that attend those meetings. And then they're taking that money, and without voting to support one candidate over another, they're actually taking the money and they're giving it to the Conservative Leadership Caucus PAC. and then that PAC is turning around and giving the money to the candidates of their choice, not of the choice of the members who had contributed the money, and they just think that they're doing something that's really good. So that's what makes this activity so nefarious, is the way that they behave. And by the way, it's not just a question of disparaging characters in terms of they really do find out something that's true about somebody. They'll make it up. They'll lie about people. And basically those mailers, they'll barrage people, 5, 6, 7 mailers, until people that are reading them that don't really understand what's going on thinks that there's got to be something wrong with this particular.
Can I interject for a moment? Not only are they working on just getting individuals elected, but they're placing particular people in public servant positions all throughout the county. They have dominated every single public institution in Lee County has been infiltrated, not only from elected officials, but at high-level administrative positions where they have made sure their people are appointed and are sitting in those seats that make very important decisions for all the citizens of Lee County.
Let me give one great example of that. That would be the Chamber of Commerce in Southwest Florida.
Exactly.
Not only are we talking about Tiffany Esposito, but we're also talking about Brian Hammond. And the whole point is not only are they self-dealing, but they're also posing some serious conflicts of interest, ethical questions, because the idea is the Chamber of Commerce is going to lobby the commissioners in the State House.
That's
and
right.
yet at the same time, people who are working for them are supposed to be representing us. How is that in any way logical, fair, or even smart on behalf of Southwest Florida? They're double dealing Southwest Florida.
Yes, and it's very hard to fight something like that. We're fighting this cancer that is spreading all throughout, and the regular person, the regular citizen in Lee County doesn't even realize how infiltrated this county has become with this deep-rooted corruption of the cabal.
And one more thing, this deep-rooted corruption, the cabal, is also spreading to Collier and Charlotte counties as well.
Yes.
So they're actually even getting bigger.
Yeah.
Lee County.
Well, we've talked about, me and Ford have I think pretty much every other show almost we've discussed how bad it's getting. And, and finally, it's like, I don't know whether somebody's starting to hear some of us people that are political activists speaking against the cabals. And everybody on this panel is a conservative. Everybody here is a conservative. The problem is we've got poor conservatives leading our party right now. And if we don't speak up, I mean, what does that make us? We're hypocrites. I mean, we tell people you shouldn't vote for a Democratic person because they're doing this or that. Well, we're doing the same thing, and I just can't get along that with that type of thought process. Now, many residents have begun to question the activities of Lee County's elected officials, just like us, and we're seeing average citizens voicing their concerns more frequently. And I want to share this clip from the Fort Myers Beach Town Council the other week. And realistically, what this guy said, I think many people feel this way, but I want to play this. This is going to be a couple minutes, guys, but it's like 2 minutes and some change. But bear with me and watch this.
To withdraw my application for reappointment to the MRF Advisory Board. There's a number of reasons why, but I'd like to share two of the most compelling. First, I believe the town council has begun to politicize the advisory boards and appear to want to continue this, which really doesn't serve the needs of the community by placing folks that primarily pursue self-interest or defend them. Second, I refuse to volunteer and serve on an advisory board for a town councilman like John King. All volunteers seeking appointment need to heed this warning. John King uses really despicable tactics against advisory board volunteers to subvert his responsibilities as an elected official. This issue originates when a discreet email detailing a valid concern is sent to the entirety of the town council. Instead of considering the issue, he immediately forwards it to Ed Royd over at Beach Talk Radio to be posted on social media for public harassment. Who does this? I mean, who does this? A discreet email forwarded directly to social media. In this case, the email was actually edited even before it was posted to maximize this his social media crucifixion. His site is highly censored, negative messages are removed, and opposing contributors are blocked. It's not news, it's a propaganda narrative. This disgusting tactic is reprehensible from an elected leader, and John Keegan deserves no respect nor support from his constituents. His actions defy any moral code or ethical requirement of a counselor. I believe that the town council continues to support Beach Talk Radio in their divisive rhetoric, excessively recognizes good deeds and providing access to information and providing content to his shows. It is an unhealthy relationship and exists really to avoid being in the center of his attention. Ed Royd is nothing more than the Hawk Tuah girl of Hurricane Ian and has been monetizing our town ever since. Like an abusive partner, it's always a couple nice acts and then a punch in the face. If he's not rallying against our prior mayor, town councilman, or even me, he tries to stay relevant. Now he's picked a fight with probably the most selfless and giving member of our community, Jackie Lezak. This has to stop. It has to stop. You know, Ed Royd is nothing but a cancer on this town, and morally vacant counselors like John King continue to feed this town. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
But this gentleman, now this is a resident, I guess. He's been on the board of one of the town hall, the city council there. What he said is more than it says more than people realize. He criticized Ed Ryan from Beach Talk Radio, calling Ed Ryan a cancer on Fort Myers Beach. Now, it's easy to see why somebody would say that. But let me just say this. I'm a nobody. I'm a local guy. I'm not out here trying to jump through the hoops and get everybody to know who I am. I'm trying to put out information that I feel like people ought to look into. What you do with it is your business. I really limited ask for anybody to donate to anything. You know, that's just not really what I'm at. If I've donated, it's a direct source. I'm going to take it to the person, whatever. Now, many podcasters, they get friendly with these government officials. And they'll say anything they want them to say so they can get more information. And he called Ed Ryan the Hawk Tuah girl of Fort Myers Beach. Well, you can say the same thing about other podcasters in our area. And they eventually, once the money dries up, they're going to go away. We've seen that down here in Naples, and he's following out. We had Brandon Leslie, and once people started seeing that what he really was, they quit really supporting him so much. Now he's got support in other areas. There's like a shell game. They take their voice and their opinions and they pander to these people and act like they're all this for them, and they start over. That's what really the big message I took away from this, because it ain't just Ed Ryan. It's a lot of these podcasters that are actually cancers on society, in my opinion.
I would throw one more in there, and that is the FloridaPolitics.com blog. I would tell you that Terry Miller is certainly paying somebody over there. Yeah. I don't always necessarily know who, but I can tell you there is money changing hands with some of the ones that particularly cover Southwest Florida for that publication.
Well,
NBC, Dave Elias. That's another one.
Well, I can throw another one in there. Drew Steele.
That's another one too.
Who has now left 92.5 and is teamed up with Lion Brendan Leslie of Florida's Voice.
Yeah. Well, you know, and again, and I'm going to give Ed Ryan his credit. Ed Ryan did ask me once to go on his show, and I respectfully declined to go on his show. I just, like I said before, his aspirations don't align with my objectives, and I benefit nothing, and nobody benefits from me going on his show, because it would do me nothing but for clickbait for him. I'm aware of that. So, and you know, and Denise, you had the opportunity to have an Ed Ryan encounter. Do you agree with the speaker that Ed Ryan's become a cancer on Fort Myers Beach?
You know, I was relieved to see that there was somebody that showed up to a Fort Myers City Council meeting and finally spoke the truth about Ed Ryan of Beach Talk Radio. I was there the day. First of all, I know who he and his wife are. I've known who they are for years. But I happened to be there when Matt Thornton was running for county commissioner. It was the same day that his opponent, Dave Mullica, was there. And I had 600 pages worth of documents in my hand that I specifically handed to Ed and Kim Ryan that came from the Department of Environmental Protection that were obvious proof that Mullica had been toxic dumping both on land and in water off of Alico Road on a road called Gator Road. So what do? Fast forward, they start bashing Matt Thornton, not that day, but in the future. And then they start supporting Mullica. Well, they're calling themselves beach people. I don't know a person that really cares about the beach that doesn't have an interest in land and water. By the way, I do want to mention those same documents went to Captains of Clean Water. They also went to the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. They also went to Wink News, and they also went to NBC2. And none of those people did anything with that information. And Ed and Kim of Beach Talk Radio absolutely did not. And I'm the one that put those documents in their hands.
Well,
when I objected to the fact that they were bashing Matt Thornton, they on the air started saying, "Oh, there's Denise Nystrom. She's the crazy. I'm the crazy. They're the ones that are trying." What I do, I'm not. I'm just me doing it. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm not looking for a public office. I don't earn any money. I'm not who they are. I'm not looking for their notoriety. It's about ethics and being honest, and these people are just not ethical and they're just not honest, and they all want something. And that's the same thing true of you, Joe, and that's why you said, why would I go on his show and become clickbait?
Yeah. Ford, I mean, you know how the game's played. I mean, what is your opinion on this?
I think I'm a little disappointed in Wink News and also the local Fox and NBC too, and extend this, because this is what Southwest Florida is about. It's about our environment. It's about our beaches. It's about our beauty. That's why we're in the heyday of Southwest Florida. And this goes right to that. And if you're not going to lift a finger to actually put this into the public conversation, let people make their own decisions, then what are you going to cover? I mean, what is the point of some of our local media? I don't think there really is a point to it, and it's very, very disappointing. And this is going on all over Florida, not just in Southwest Florida.
Yeah, we can't even trust the local media. Ed Ryan and Dave Elias allowed Dave Mullica to actually lie, and they aided and abetted him in telling the public that this was not true, that this is a farce, this is a false story, that he's never done this, that this was there was no contaminants, no carcinogens. And lo and behold, on October 4th of this year, just a couple of weeks ago, the consent order was posted on DEP website, where he's going to be getting $100 a day fine. He has specific testing that he needs to do, and they're giving him a demand order to clean this up ASAP. So the media did not do this, the job that they're supposed to do in being objective and letting the real information come out. They didn't even call DEP to interview them. I spoke to DEP. DEP said they never contacted them.
Well, now, and Dave Mullica, and he is just pretty much without question going to end up with that commissioner seat in the same area where he toxic dump. And this is the thing I've said all along. We've covered a lot about the Mullica and the rest of that nepotistic family. The one thing I have said is that Dave Mullica is a liar. And he lied right on NBC2 and said that all the information that Jacqueline, Denise, and I have brought forth was untrue, that he was not, none of it. And you got the evidence. We've all had the evidence. We've put it in their faces, and he still just keeps walked in there like he's the little Lord Fauntleroy. How does it happen? What do we do here? Our hands are tied, and that's why people are disgusted with the way it goes in Lee County.
Even more disgusting, Joe. No, he's going to be. It was actually, I got interrupted from a phone call from DEP because I left him a message this morning. He's going to be representing the same area that he polluted in. I can't even get over that. The area that I live and I own property and investments in, he's going to be representing us in the area that he dumped
Well, now,
carcinogen.
And we got one more issue on this, though. It's something you brought up, Joe, the nepotism. Just so people know, you've also got his wife, who's a state representative, who basically is the brains of the operation. You also have his father, who's on the school board. I mean, they're playing musical chairs in Lee County. And basically, at the end of the day, it's all protecting Dave Mullica. And that's another reason I believe, I'm not going to speak for the journalists themselves, but I have a reason to believe that that's why they're not going after Dave Mullica and telling the truth, is because they'll lose access to other people.
Dan Eagle attended one of the meetings of DEP. I asked for the list of the attendees. Dan Eagle was there to aid him, assist him, or whatever. That to me is everybody. It's like a bedlam of everyone who is sleeping with everyone in town. Everybody, it's incestuous in every place you can imagine. It's
you know, and to add to that, I actually sent an email to the executives at NBC2 with regard to Dave Elias, who basically said that they stood by the story. And so I filed an FCC complaint against him. Now, I have to tell you, unfortunately, a lot of that stuff goes nowhere, but I was compelled to do it so that I at least had a record that I had reached out to these people. So,
well, absolutely. And I mean, and to that, I want, you know, all those squallies, those long-term Floridians, there's all kind of stories that go back on. I want to move on. Jacqueline brought up that she lives in the Island Park area where this is going on. And there's a group of people in residents in Island Park that are upset, rightfully so. Jacqueline, let's talk about what's going on in Island Park where you live.
In Island Park, anybody who has any home or business close to 10 Mile Canal has seen an enormous amount of flooding incidents since 2017, August, 2 weeks prior to when Irma first hit. You know, one thing that the county commissioners failed to be very open about was we had a large amount of rain during the last week of August in 2017. Manhattan Construction had just finished making repairs or finishing their construction of a detention pond at the airport. Well, that wall happens to collapse, I believe the 27th or the 28th of August. That sent a rush of almost 6 feet, in addition to the normal water, down 10 Mile, down Alico Road, down 10 Mile Canal, and that was the cause of the first flood. Come Irma, 2 weeks later, they didn't have the time to fix that wall, and we are an open bathtub of it coming in. Thereafter, we had Ian. Well, I'll accept that Ian was a surge, but just June of this year, we had an enormous amount of rain. My office, all the repairs that we made from Ian, we flooded again. There was over 11 to 12 feet of water at 6 Mile Cypress. There's different water channels that are feeding into 10 Mile Canal, and it was not constructed to take that amount of water from the airport, from 6 Mile Cypress, from Briarcliff. We take water from downtown Fort Myers. So,
but Jacqueline, let me ask you, wasn't there money to put pumping stations in to prevent this already?
They had proposed a plan. They requested $4.9 million. And then they requested those monies. They received millions and millions of dollars after the hurricanes, after the flooding, not only from the state, but from the federal government and special grants. And the money, what did they do? They gave it to Johnson Engineering so they could do a flood study. And in this flood study, they failed to include the detention pond that had failed. They're not emphasizing the fact that 10 Mile Canal is receiving an abundance amount of water that it cannot handle. And it's feeding it into Florida's oldest and most protected estuary, Estero Bay. And that's not water that's clean water. I don't care what they say. There's been a difference. I've lived there since I've been in contact with the business and my home with 10 Mile Canal, and the clarity of the water has changed. I've seen dead manatees. We've had a lot of loss of wildlife. The water smells like crap. And we have continuous flooding going on since 2017 forward. I'm not against construction. I'm in construction, but it has to be done intelligently. It has to be done responsibly with the proper infrastructure. We cannot support the amount of water that they are throwing down 10 Mile Canal. It's like you have a clogged toilet and you just keep dingling that the water, and it's going to overflow and overflow. We cannot handle that type of water. But what did they do? They spent over $1 million for a flood survey that's not properly done. They've spent money elsewhere. They claim that they cleaned the culverts on Island Park, but that doesn't address the amount of water that's coming through that we cannot handle. They should have stayed with their plan that they initially spoke about, and that they made a proposal to put pump stations on Island Park Road to throw water into Hickey Creek, which is all an estuary in there, so people would not be stuck in their homes, their cars wouldn't be flooded. This is 6 times since 2017 that people have been flooded in their homes and businesses.
This ties into the elections, and it ties into the PAC money, because when you look at who's contributing to the people that are making the decisions, it's all of the builders and the developers and so on. So there's a direct link to all of these conversations.
Absolutely. And you think Mullica, who's going to be our county commissioner, who just dumped into the groundwater that leads into 10 Mile Canal, you think he gives a crap? He doesn't care. They don't care about anything. They don't care about the citizens of Lee County.
Jacqueline, my question though, so there was a initial request, or there was an initial statement they were going to build these pumping stations. The money was provided. Did they do anything to implement those pumping stations?
No, they did not. They changed their whole route of plan, and they invested into researching and doing more surveys.
But that's my point. They took money that was
They were given, but not only for that, Joe, because that was only $4 million plus that was being requested. They've received probably close to maybe over $1 billion in total from the federal and from state, starting from Irma forward through all these flooding incidents. And they have totally ignored Island Park. They've totally ignored 10 Mile Canal, because they need 10 Mile Canal. They need that. They don't care if they flood us out. They want us to leave because they have all these big developments coming, and they need that water to come out somewhere. And they're not willing to invest money.
How can they legally do this? Take in funds for a project. They request these funds with a project in mind. And then all of a sudden, oh, we got the funds. Now we've decided we don't want to do that project. We're going to do a study about doing another project. Is that legal? How do they get away with this?
It is, depending on how the legislation or the order was written for the funds. So they can do that. They can play loose with it. And obviously, by doing surveys, I'm sure without Jacqueline weighing in on this, I'm sure they're probably paying themselves to do the survey, which is absolutely ridiculous and double dealing, or at least they're friends. They're paying similar people, scratching each other's back, not really solving the problem. But as Jacqueline went out, they don't want to solve the problem, because if they solve the problem, then they can't have their big, brand new, communities that they want to build. And essentially, Jacqueline is inconvenient for what they want to do in this area.
I find interesting. Nobody's talked about this, but this idea has come across myself and a couple of other neighbors. In 2017, when we flooded the first time, and there were millions and millions of dollars of repairs and claims being put through the insurance company, we shouldn't have gone after our insurance companies. We should have been suing Manhattan Construction and the county commissioners for failing to protect us. That's what should have happened in August of 2017. And then again, when Irma came through, they want to blame Irma. We had no protection. I followed the USGS site where it tells us the weirs at the height of the level of the water. I can tell you what time that wall collapsed. I went down there and filmed with a neighbor. We did all the filming. You could see the rush of water, how it pushed big boulders, rocks, the wall collapsed. We have everything. And they lied in the Johnson report, and they said that it was repaired before Irma came. It's a bullshit lie. It's not true.
Well, that's why we say
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, what I was trying to make a point though is for people watching is that that's why I always tell people over and over the most important position you vote for in Lee County, unfortunately, is not President of the United States. It is, in fact, the county commissioners, because they control the day-to-day of people's lives in Lee County in ways that they can't even fathom. From your point, from basically storm surges all the way to who's doing what in the public schools. I mean, they control billions of dollars going through their hands, and it's not being used in the best interest of Lee County residents.
Absolutely. They're not good stewards of our money. I've begged for them to give us an audit, an actual forensic audit. The clerk of court went so far as to tell me there was no such thing as a forensic audit. I mean, you know, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. So, I mean, these guys are just, they'll tell you whatever's the best thing to come out of their mouth that they know. And once you talk to them, I'm not a super educated man, but some of them have great degrees, and when you talk to them, you feel like you're talking to the biggest idiot in the world. I mean, it's amazing to me how they get along with this. I do think that the people of Island Park, they need to keep stressing how bad their situation is under this government, the leadership. And the thing of it is, like Ford said, that's the most important race that you'll vote for in any town is county commissioner. And we're at the 11th hour, and we have no county commissioner seated or coming in that is going to be good stewards of our community at all. I mean, look at it. Anybody can name one county commissioner in Lee County that they are totally satisfied with on that board. I'd like to hear why and who. Do any of y'all can name one? No, and you see what's coming in. I mean, do y'all think that we're going to get better leadership when you bring on Mullica and people like that?
Bad is about to get worse. That's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, that's the way I feel, and I've been screaming. I thought, man, I really got to get on top of this, and I hit it hard from the beginning, and so did Denise, and so did Jacqueline. And you know, it's like, man, this can't happen, but it did. It's happening. So now all we can do is we got to fight and hold them accountable, and every turn and hope. And I keep using this phrase. We need someone from the outside of this area with the power to step in. We're not going to get it from anybody that is public office currently. We're not going to get it from any of the officials that are the candidates or nominees that's running. It's not going to happen. And until we get somebody that really sees the struggle that the residents are living under in this county, we're going to struggle. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wanted to go ahead before we finish up the show. I wanted to talk about the local REC. Now, I've said all along that our REC is fractured. We had to split when the new board come in, and you had folks like Brian Wright and all of them go over and make their conservative club. And it's been a constant, like a ping pong match for conservatives amongst two sets of people that all both claim to be conservative and think they have the best mind for the action we need to proceed. And it's caused so much issues. And I've said, you know, I would like to be a part of the Republican Executive Committee. Personally, I would like to. However, I cannot sign a loyalty clause with the people that they are supporting, and I just don't understand how anybody in their right mind, that's like saying you got to go with anything that this group says, no matter what. And then all of a sudden the group brings Charles Manson in to babysit for you. I mean, who are you? And you got to go for it. I think not. I'm not going to do it.
And they recently, I think in the REC, Denise, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they voted to donate a large amount of money to Vanessa Chaviano for her campaign, and she doesn't even belong to the REC. She's actually belongs to Brian Wright's conservative caucus that campaigns against the REC.
Now,
am I not right?
Jacqueline, you brought up, and I had not received her her mailer, but you received her mailer and you shared the picture of it, and it states
Right. I
she was a
received the
teacher.
mailer.
But I'm
A
saying,
teacher sent me a mailer.
okay, a
and
teacher
there were
sent a mailer.
her qualifications as to whether she was a real teacher or not. In her, she's a Terry Ford. She's a Terry Miller candidate, and so on her mailers it states that she was an administrator and that she was a teacher. So I looked her up on the teacher certification, DOE, Florida's DOE website, and she was never a certified teacher. And to move up into an administrative position, you have to be a teacher first. And I was attacked by certain individuals trying to defend her, saying that everybody has the right to run. And I believe that everybody has a right to run, but you can't embellish your qualifications. And to me, it was very insulting for teachers who sit before the board and try to pass that exam, for her to even categorize herself. If she's going to believe that she's a teacher because she's helped her children in school, well, then hell, I'm a teacher, I'm an accountant, I'm an executioner, I'm a judge, I'm a chef, I'm a mechanic, I'm a whole bunch of stuff then at
And
home.
a great
as well.
lawyer, too.
Yeah, that's right. So
You know,
I was kind of insulted.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting situation when you have people that are embellishing their careers, while at the same time you have that person's campaign manager who is disparaging a person who and lying about them. So you have these people. I mean, it's just the irony of it all. And you know, I am a member of the Lee County Republican Executive Committee. I'm a proud member, but I do have to tell you that I am under a lot of scrutiny by what I call the old establishment, who used to also control the board positions and state committee man, state committee woman in the LCREC, because I am exposing what it is that is going on in this county. And as a result, they're actually trying to intimate that I'm not being a good conservative. Wrong. I think I am being a great conservative. Actually, it is they who are not the good conservatives, because these are the people that are contributing to the CLC PAC, contributing to Miller's PACs, have PACs of their own, using this money to disparage characters. I'm the one that's saying to them, this is not okay what it is that you're doing. It's not okay to be lying about people through mailers and so on. But, you know, so in the end, they're trying to say that I've broken the loyalty oath. But in reality, that's not what they're concerned about. They're not concerned that I liked a libertarian, say, for example. They're concerned that I'm over the target with regard to what it is that they've been doing in this county and how they've been stealing people's votes by creating smoke and mirrors in terms of who these people are voting for, and then what these people are doing when they get in office. So I absolutely have the establishment on me in terms of wanting me to be removed from the REC, when in reality, if I hadn't been working on exposing everything that I've been exposing over the last several years, we would be that much further behind.
Yeah, if you supported their initiative, they wouldn't have a problem with you. And you know, and for folks that think this is just a couple people that's having a problem with this establishment or the Terry Miller candidates, you know, years ago, Connie Mack.
That's exactly right. Connie Mack was the one who first saw this.
Removed Terry Miller.
That's exactly right. Removed him when I believe he was the chairman of the Lee County Republican Executive Committee. He knew exactly what could go on, because he said there's no way that you can be the strategist for these campaigns and also be sitting here within the Lee County Executive Committee. I mean, he knew, and the problem is nobody really paid attention at the time when Connie did that.
And Connie, look, you know, I know Connie for years ago, and Connie was always a good guy. And I really think that Connie had the people's best interest in mind, and he done what was in the best interest by moving that cancer at that time. I mean, that's the way I feel about that situation. But, you know, it's very interesting to see. It's almost like what happened in the past is coming again in the future. And we got to hope that somebody like Connie is strong enough to go in there and say, this ain't happening, get out of here. But, you know, what they do, they'd be like Brian Wright. They go and invest in opening them up their own little club. And you know, it's like the whole thing. I'll take my football and leave. You ain't playing with it, you know. But I don't know. Well, folks, we're getting ready to wrap the show up. Before we go, is there anything you other ladies have questions about or for?
Well, I do want to point out that the people that have been at the helm in terms of the board are not the old establishment and have not behaved in the unethical manner in which the establishment prior to them did behave. The elections are, coming, up in December, and I hope that continues, because that's what I would like to see. I didn't want anybody to think that was what was currently going on. It's the old establishment, the cabal, that's going after me.
Right. No, I understand. That's what I said. It's fractured. The REC's fractured, and you've got side A and side B, and if you're not playing with one of the sides, somebody's going to attack you. That's just the way it goes. Jacqueline, I know we got a lot of school board stuff coming up. I was hoping to maybe have a show with you this week, and we can talk about something.
Do that. I'm going to close out on a comment that Kevin Carnes came on my Facebook page to tell me this is Kevin Carnes' quote. "I completely disagree with you. You constantly criticize and rush to judgment. No system is perfect. We need to focus on the positive and find the common good and stop attacking people, especially our public servants." You can disagree without.
Who is Kevin Carnes? So Kevin Carnes
of courts and our county controller.
And
he received
president of the Cape Coral Club, who funneled money to the Conservative Leadership Caucus PAC so that he could give it effectively to part of the cabal to run their campaigns.
He was upset because I posted an open letter I wrote to the school board and the superintendent, because they hired Riley Kempton from Terry Miller's office, who worked there for 5.5 years, as their government liaison person. Can you believe that?
They've got their claws in everywhere. Some of them are 2 or 3 double dipping in different positions. I mean, that's how bad this is. I mean, this is so pervasive, you wouldn't even believe it. If this was a Hollywood script, you'd tell us we were lying. But that's how ridiculous the whole thing is. I will say this on my side. Right now, obviously, Donald Trump's going to win Florida. But just because he's going to win Florida does not mean you can't turn out to vote, because you still have Rick Scott and some people up even further. There's other House seats like Anna Paulina Luna around the Tampa area. People need to make sure that everyone turns out to vote, because, again, it's not just about Trump winning. It's about making sure we hold the House of Representatives. We wind up winning the United States Senate. And hopefully in the United States Senate, Rick Scott's able to make a play to be Senate Majority Leader, but we will all find out in a week.
That's great. Yeah, we're running a little long this week, so we're about to wrap it up. I want to encourage Jacqueline to maybe we'll do a show and we'll cover some school board issues. And Denise, you're more than welcome to join us. And I know Ford's busy. He's got bigger names on the other line, so we'll have to let Ford off on that one. I do want to say, any of you folks in Island Park that are having issues, you do need to come together. I know there's several Facebook groups, Jacqueline, is that correct, with people, residents of Island Park, about these issues?
Yes, there's 2 groups, Island Park Mitigation Group, and there's another one that's an Island Park Recovery Group. And both of them are very good. We're all getting together. We have already gone to the first county commissioners meeting, and we intend to attend all of them and call them out. And I'm just trying to review complaints, waiting on a phone call back from an environmentalist attorney to see what other outlets or routes we have for going after the county commissioners for ignoring us and putting us in jeopardy.
Very good. So you folks that are residents of Island Park or have property in Island Park, check out those groups, and that's a great source for information. Denise, you have a newsletter that goes out. You want to tell the folks about it?
Sure. So I have a newsletter that's called Shining Light, and I have a website. It's shininglightfyi.com. I love to send people my newsletter and let them know what is really going on in Lee County. Thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate it. I welcome anybody that wants to get a hold of me.
That's very good. Well, Ford, as always, man, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I want to say the most common question I get is, can you ask Ford? Can you ask Ford? Well, we're going to start doing a segment. If you want to ask Ford, send me an email to the show, and depending on what the question is, we'll either ask your question on air, or Maybe we'll bring you on here and you can ask for it yourself. I'm Smokin Joe with Fort O'Connell. We're glad to have Miss Nystrom and Miss Perez join us today. We love you, Florida. Love, peace, and gator grease. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.